I used to live in a fairly remote area. My house was surrounded by woods. It was a great place to grow up because I'd often have friends over from school on the weekends for bonfires and sleepovers. One of our favorite things to do was play a game called flashlight tag. In case you've never played flashlight tag, basically it's a game played at night. The person who's it has the flashlight and wins the game by shining it on the other person. Then that person becomes it. The game was actually harder than you might imagine because we played in such a large wooded area. There was a lot of places to hide. Trees, hills, bushes, they all made for good cover. One weekend in the summer of 2016, I invited my best friend Al over to stay the night at my place to have a fire. We had been friends for years and he frequently stayed at my place on weekends. He lived in a more urban area and he really liked the secluded nature of my house because we could do things like fish, swim, and just things that he wouldn't be able to do where he lived. This was the first weekend of summer and school had just finished, so we were both pretty excited. Looking back though, it turned into one of the most disturbing weekends of my life. Al and I sat around the bonfire with my parents, talking, roasting s'mores, and listening to music. At around 11:30 p.m., my parents got tired and decided to head back into the house for the night. Al and I talked for a bit, and I'll admit, we may have snuck a few coolers from the parents' icebox that they left sitting beside their lawn chairs. After a while, I asked Al if he wanted to play flashlight tag like we did when we were younger. Feeling pretty nostalgic, he excitedly agreed, so I ran inside, grabbed a couple flashlights from the cupboard, and headed out. We started walking away from the fire straight into the woods. I realize this might seem crazy to a lot of you, but keep in mind, I had grown up here and spent most of my life driving four-wheelers and hunting in the area, so I knew the place pretty well. We walked for probably about 5 minutes, far enough to where we could no longer hear the music or see the light from the fire. When we got far enough away, we decided to do rock, paper, scissors to see who would be it. He won. He always won. So I closed my eyes and started counting to 20. I listened to him running and I could easily make out the direction in which he was heading. Once I got to 20, I opened my eyes and yelled, "Ready or not, here I come." I'll admit, playing this game did get a bit creepy because it was totally dark, but that just added to the fun. Plus, I'd always been a lot faster than Al, so I usually won the game. I started walking, and I swear only a minute later I heard a shuffle about 20 yards ahead of me. I shined my light in the direction, and there was a small pile of sand that my parents had delivered for a yard project or something. As I walked, I shined my flashlight to either side of me because I didn't want Al to know that I had already found him. About 10 feet from the pile, I turned my light off so I could surprise him. I jumped over the top of the pile, turning my light back on and yelled, "Gotcha!" But to my surprise, he wasn't there. I'll admit, I was pretty impressed. Usually he wasn't very good at the game, and I thought to myself, man, this is going to be fun. I decided to head off in another direction toward my left, thinking Al might have tried to throw me off by changing directions once I could no longer hear his footsteps. I was cutting through a pretty thick area with a lot of trees and bushes, and I actually had to use my hands and didn't get hit in the face with the branch. I figured out I could walk through this section, pop out on the other side, and hopefully catch Al off guard. Just as I was pushing the branch out of my way, I heard a rustle in the leaves behind me and a quiet boom. It actually sent chills down my spine. I was completely confused as I turned around because I wasn't sure how he'd managed to get so close without making any sound. When I turned around though, there was nobody there. This really freaked me out and I yelled to Al, "Hey man, I'm kinda thirsty. Do you want to take a break?" But I got nothing. I thought he was probably really enjoying this, and I knew that there was almost no chance he'd reveal himself to me at this point. Freaked out and a little bit nervous, I continued in a big loop around the property. Out of nowhere, another voice whispered what felt like right in my ear behind me. "You can't get me." My heart sank and adrenaline washed over me. I didn't even look behind me, I just ran as fast as I could back toward my house. I sprinted like never before. I could hear my heart thumping as I jumped over bushes, not looking back even once. Full on sprinting. I got back to the yard and ran straight up to the patio stairs and into the back door of my parents' house. I swung the door open and to my surprise, Al was sitting in the living room with my parents. He had a bag of ice on his ankle and his foot was elevated onto the coffee table. All three of them shot me a surprised glare. "I rolled my ankle," said Al. My parents chimed in. "Yeah, no more tag for tonight. Why don't you guys take it easy and hang out downstairs or something?" I was in complete disbelief. Before I could even try to communicate what happened, I looked back out the patio door and to my terror, there was someone standing in the yard by the fire looking directly at the house. I motioned for my parents to rush over. Even Al hobbled over to see what was going on. Apparently, I looked completely pale and out of breath, so they knew something had happened. Sure enough, they looked out the door and the person was still standing there. He had a hood on, but we couldn't make out any other details because of the shadow of the fire pit that was just behind him. I think we were all in shock, and the guy actually stood there for probably another 10 seconds. Finally, my dad shoved the door open and stepped onto the back deck and just yelled, "Hey!" The guy took off running, and he was very fast, much faster than me and certainly faster than Al. If that was the guy who was messing with me in the woods, he easily could have caught me if he tried. After that, I explained to Al and my parents what had happened. They took me seriously but said it was more than likely someone playing a trick or a neighbor just having fun. I never saw that man again, and Al and I have never played flashlight tag since then. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks, and see you soon.